Hello there, listeners. Welcome to the Night Signal. We find ourselves going back into the woods again, following some more strange disappearances. So grab your backpack, some water, and maybe a map. Oh, and make sure you don't wander off by yourself. Let's take a look at 6 more missing 411 cases. In 2015, Jessica Mitchell and DeOrr Kunz Sr. went on a camping trip with their 2-year-old son, DeOrr Kunz Jr., in the backcountry of Idaho. DeOrr's great-grandfather, Robert Walton, and his friend were also on the trip. The campsite was on the edge of the Rocky Mountain National Park. It started out like any other camping trip, setting up and settling in, but it ended in a mystery. Jessica and DeOrr Sr. went to locate a fishing spot in the stream next to their campsite. As they started walking to the location, they noticed little DeOrr following them. They sent him back to the campsite, and Jessica asked her grandfather to watch little DeOrr. They were gone for a short time, and were only about 60 yards away. The campsite could be seen from the fishing spot. When they returned, the grandfather told them that the child had simply been there 1 second and was gone the next. The grandfather claimed not to have gone inside his trailer the entire time they were gone. DeOrr was only missing for about an hour before the authorities were contacted. An extensive search of the area using helicopters, search dogs, and volunteers turned up no sign of the 2-year-old. The campsite was secluded and only accessible by one long off-road trail, so it's unlikely little DeOrr was kidnapped by strangers. Also unlikely is that DeOrr wandered a significant distance from the campsite. The area is rugged, and a 2-year-old is not likely to be able to traverse the terrain successfully. Predation could be an option, but if this is in fact what happened, it had to be fast and quiet. There was no blood and no sign of a struggle. No one heard anything. Foul play could also be an option, but as of this recording, no charges have ever been brought against anyone at the campsite on that day. Cian McLaughlin, 2021. A 27-year-old Irishman visiting Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming has been missing since June of 2021. He was working in Wyoming for 2 years, where he was working as a snowboard instructor in the winter and in local bars in the summer. The last known sighting of McLaughlin pinpointed him heading in the direction of Taggart Lake, his favorite trail. His car was found nearby. After he did not return to work the next day, a massive search was performed to find him. Other than his car, no other evidence was ever recovered. One witness claimed to have seen him going up the trail without a backpack, but her claims were later debunked, and she was charged with interfering with the case. Because of this, over 500 hours of search time was committed in the wrong area. McLaughlin was an avid outdoorsman, with 2 years' experience living and hiking in this area. What caused him to disappear with no sign? Dr. Maurice Dametz, 1981. 84-year-old theology professor Dr. Maurice Dametz was best known for his belief that the Antichrist was coming to this world in his lifetime. He was a real fire and brimstone kind of guy. Now he's known for his mysterious disappearance. When Maurice was not preaching about the end of the world as we know it, he liked to collect rocks with his friend, David McSherry. On the day of his disappearance, Maurice and David traveled to Pike National Forest in Douglas County, Colorado. Maurice, being 84 years old, had bad knees and could not get around without his friend David, and could not move on his own. They worked out a system where David would get Maurice to a dig location. Then David would go to his site for a while before returning for Maurice later. David would always check on Maurice about every 15 minutes. They would repeat this for hours. All was going according to plan until David, again, returned to pick up Maurice, and he was gone. Maurice and all his tools had just vanished into thin air. David searched for the old man frantically. He returned to the car in hopes that Maurice had somehow made it back there, but he was just gone. David flagged down a passing car and contacted the authorities. A search was performed, but nothing was ever found. No blood, no tracks, nothing. In Maurice's elderly state, there was no way he would be able to wander off by himself. And even if he did, there was no way he could get very far. The area of the disappearance was named the Devil's Head. It's a little ironic for a man believing in the arrival of the Antichrist to disappear in the Devil's Head, isn't it? James McGrogan, 2014. In 2014, a medical doctor named James McGrogan went cross-country skiing with some of his friends. James was an avid outdoorsman and brought a satellite GPS system with him in case of emergencies. Halfway through the trip, James pulled away from his friends at some point. He told them that he would wait for them at the next stop until his friends caught up. When his friends arrived at the rest stop, James was nowhere to be seen. Not thinking much about it, they went on to the next stop, and the next, and the next. There was no sign of James on the trail. The strange thing about this case is that once the search team started to look for him, there were no tracks leaving the trail. If James left the trail, it would be obvious in the snow. 5 days later, his body was discovered 4.5 miles away, which was more like a 14-mile hike, as he would have to have climbed up a mountain in order to get there. His body was found by 2 hikers at the bottom of a frozen waterfall. The search party had gone over the area multiple times before, but never discovered the body, as if it had just appeared out of nowhere. James was mangled in an odd position. His skull was crushed, as if he had fallen from the sky. He was still wearing his full ski outfit and helmet, but there were no boots on his feet, and he had taken off his gloves. His cell phone and GPS were still working, and he had packed a backup battery as well. They tested the area where he had been found, and there was a cell signal there, yet he never called anyone for help. The authorities claim that this was just an accidental death, but others found the facts surrounding James' death too strange to just explain away. 9-year-old David Gonzales was camping in California's San Bernardino forest with his mother when he disappeared. David asked to borrow his mother's keys to get cookies that were located in his mother's car. His mother didn't think anything about it when she handed them over. The car was only 50 meters away after all. She turned her back for only a second, and when she turned around, David was gone. David's mom heard no sound, and there was no scuffle. The cookies were still there, so David didn't make it to the locked car. They found no sign of struggle or the boy. The search went on for 9 days, but rescuers never found him alive. 1 year later, hikers found what remained of David in the area that was heavily searched, about a mile from the campsite. Authorities assumed it was a mountain lion attack, but no blood was ever found around the abduction zone, and the autopsy found that his corpse was likely scavenged by predators only after David's death. A beige truck was seen speeding away from the campground, but police never pursued that lead. Douglas Legg, 1971. 8-year-old Douglas Legg and his family were headed out for a hike in the Adirondack Forest Preserve. His uncle told Doug to make sure that he put on pants to avoid poison ivy. The family cabin was only a short distance away, and they thought he would be fine running back and putting on the pants. They were wrong. Douglas was never seen again. Unlike a lot of kids who had gone missing in national parks, Legg was very familiar with these woods. His family owned the cabin where they were staying, and they described Doug as a mini woodsman because they all hiked there together so often. Legg's disappearance sparked one of the southern Adirondacks' largest search and rescue missions, with more than 600 people searching the woods. But nothing was ever found. Tracking dogs followed Legg's scent over a 30-mile or 48-kilometer trail through difficult terrain. How could a young child have traveled alone for such a distance? Some searchers did report seeing strange bear-like tracks near the site, but it is uncommon for black bears to drag their prey 30 miles over difficult terrain. What took Douglas Legg? If you like these stories, check out the Missing 411 book series by retired law enforcement officer and researcher David Polides. Be sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of my new videos. And as always, are you programmed to receive the night signal?